A while back, I made this YouTube short where I compared Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. In that short, I broke down the debate in categories: protagonist, side characters, villains, art style, animation, music, fights, hype, and plot. And in every single one of those categories, Dragon Ball Z takes it over Dragon Ball Super. While some people liked that video, others thought I was biased or whatever because Dragon Ball Super did not win a single category. So today, I'm gonna make a full-length video breaking down the debate. Dragon Ball Z versus Dragon Ball Super. This will be anime only, so movies are excluded from this debate, even if they are canon. Mainly because movies take a lot more time, money, and resources put into it, which is why movies are excluded from this debate. I do plan on having more of these debates on my channel, so if you want to see this kind of content, go down below and hit that subscribe button. So the first category is protagonist. Now some of you might be thinking, how did Dragon Ball Z beat over Dragon Ball Super when it's literally the same fucking protagonist? And that's true. Goku is the main character in both of these series. However, Goku in Dragon Ball Z acts much differently from Goku in Dragon Ball Super. Take a look at this picture. Some of you probably seen this before, but for those who haven't, it shows a clear distinction between the way Goku acts in DBZ versus DBS. Although Goku was goofy and funny in both Z and Super, he wasn't a complete imbecile in Z. He take things more seriously and acted mature at times. He focused more on saving and protecting people than wanting to always fight the strong guy. He was also smarter and more cognizant, and these things made him look cool and badass at certain moments. Dragon Ball Super Goku seems like he aged backwards mentally. Everything is a joke to him. He cares way too much about fighting the strongest guy, which is fine. Nothing wrong with having one of your goals being the strongest of all time, but still, he just comes off more as a clown. So for that reason, Dragon Ball Z gets the point in protagonist. The next category are the side characters. Dragon Ball Z easily wins here. Why? Because even though Dragon Ball Super takes what Dragon Ball Z has, but added more characters on top of that, the Dragon Ball Super anime just feels like the Goku and Vegeta show. Yeah, you got some good supporting characters like Beerus and Whis, plus we've seen a lot more action from the side characters in the Tournament of Power arc, but I think Dragon Ball Z still wins, because the side characters always had some sort of role throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball Z. For example, the Z fighters facing up against Nappa and Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga and in the Cell games, introduction of Trunks in the Cell arc, plus Dragon Ball Z Trunks is way cooler than Dragon Ball Super Trunks. Krillin, Goku's best friend and the kid we knew since OG Dragon Ball, did a lot more in Dragon Ball Z than Dragon Ball Super. Goten, Trunks, Piccolo, and Gohan also did a lot more in Z than Super. Even characters like Chi-Chi and Bulma had more screen time and may have contributed in ways where it was more meaningful or impactful in Z than Super. Plus we got more screen time of the other random characters like Yajirobe, Oolong, Chi-Chi's dad, Dende, Puar, etc. Dragon Ball Super made it feel like your power level or willingness to fight or contribute determined how much screen time you got, whereas Dragon Ball Z constantly showed off a bunch of characters and made it feel, I can't think of the word, but it just made it feel better. Now we'll be talking about the villains. Dragon Ball Z's major canon villains were Nappa and Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, and Buu. Yes, there were other villains like the androids, the Ginyu Force, Dabura, etc. But for now, let's focus on the major villains. For Dragon Ball Super, the major villains were Beerus, Frieza, Hit, Goku Black and Zamasu, and Jiren. To be honest, you can't really call half of these dudes villains either. Beerus, Hit, and Jiren were not villains, they were more like antagonists. Frieza is a repeat villain from Z, not to mention his Z counterpart was more menacing, more evil, more deadly, and straight up better. Golden Frieza was just the sacrificial lamb to demonstrate the power of Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, and for the return of Dragon Ball anime when it first premiered as a movie. However, Zamasu and Goku Black were good villains. I'm a big fan of Goku Black in particular. I think he's really badass and is easily the best villain of Dragon Ball Super. However, he cannot carry the team hard enough because the villains from Dragon Ball Z as a whole are better than the villains of Dragon Ball Super as a whole. Even the side villains of Z were better than the side villains of Super. Next, I'll be talking about the art and animation together. This was actually one of the complaints I got from a viewer when I posted my short about this debate. So I'll just read my reply to that complaint because I think I did a pretty good job of showing the difference and explaining the difference between why Z actually did the art and animation better, even though Super was newer. Just because Dragon Ball Super is new, has better resolution, vibrant colors, etc., doesn't make it better. The first two arcs of Dragon Ball Super, Battle of Gods and Golden Frieza arc, had some of the worst art and animation ever. For example, Dragon Ball Super Episode 5 when Goku fought Beerus on King Kai's planet. Remember how poorly drawn that fight was? How stiff it felt? And that was just one example. Dragon Ball Super has many instances where scenes were poorly drawn and the animation wasn't pleasing to watch. For the most part, Dragon Ball Super was poorly drawn and animated. It only seen a noticeable improvement in the Tournament of Power arc, but to be fair, some of the Future Trunks arc had some good art and animation, for example, Vegito versus Zamasu. DBZ, on the other hand, had better art and animation, more details like better details in the faces or blood being shown. Things moved more fluidly like explosions, fight scenes, and hand-to-hand combat. More or better effects like terrain being affected during fights or the lightning effects in certain forms like Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 3, and much more. This adds on to things like portraying emotion, attacks feeling more powerful, hype moments feeling more impactful, etc. A perfect example would be when Vegeta charged his first Final Flash in DBZ against Cell versus charging his first Final Flash in DBS against Vegeta. There is a lot more going on in Z, and it looks better in Z than Super. This improves the viewing experience as a whole, and DBS did not deliver the same way DBZ did for the most part. In fact, when Yu Yu Takahashi animated some of the Tournament Power episodes in Dragon Ball Super, majority, if not everyone, agreed this style was better. The art was much more clean and detailed, as well as the animation being more fluid and improving our viewing experience. But that was only for a few episodes. DBZ had that for most, if not all, the episodes of the Buu Saga. Granted, it had the 90s animation, but it was still good nonetheless and consistent. I'm not saying DBZ didn't have times when it wasn't bad, because it did, but Dragon Ball Super has had a lot more worse moments. And on the flip side, Dragon Ball Super's highs were higher than Dragon Ball Z. For instance, during all the UI Goku or MUI scenes. Jiren vs MUI Goku had better art and animation out of any Dragon Ball Z episode in existence. Although Dragon Ball Super's highs are higher than Dragon Ball Z's, it doesn't have as many high points, while Dragon Ball Super has lower lows and more lows than DBZ. DBZ has also shown consistency, and for those reasons, it wins the art and animation categories. Next is the music. More specifically, I'll be comparing Bruce Faulconer's Dragon Ball Z music to Dragon Ball Super's music. This category leans a lot more to personal preference than the other categories, but I'll still provide my input. I personally like Bruce Faulconer's music. I think his music is the best out of all the music that has ever been composed for Dragon Ball as a whole, with a few exceptions of course, like the UI Goku theme. That one is definitely up there. But yeah, I think Bruce's music is better in my opinion. The music he composed for specific characters like Cell's theme, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's theme, Vegeta's theme are just way too iconic. His music made the serious moments of Dragon Ball Z more intense. He made the comeback moments more hype. He made the wholesome moments more relaxing. So for those reasons, DBZ wins in music. Next are the fights. To be honest, I don't know what had more fights. I want to say DBZ since it had more episodes, but Dragon Ball Super had a lot of short fights. But this isn't about what had more fights, but rather what had the best fights. Dragon Ball Super definitely did have some amazing fights like Jiren vs Goku, Vegito vs Zamasu, Toppo vs Frieza. However, Dragon Ball Z had fights like Majin Vegeta vs Goku, Frieza vs Goku, Cell vs Gohan, Goten vs Trunks, Gotenks vs Super Buu, Piccolo vs Android 17, etc. Yes, Dragon Ball Super also had Goku vs Beerus, Goku vs Frieza, Goku vs Hit. But the problem with a lot of Dragon Ball Super's fights was the early ones had poor art and animation, so it ruined the viewing experience during the fights. But a lot of them featured either Goku or Vegeta. It wasn't as diverse, and when they do showcase other characters fighting, it wasn't as exciting most of the time. Also, another issue with Dragon Ball Super's fights, Vegeta and Goku are disappointing at times. What I mean by that is that Goku or Vegeta, mainly Goku, will go Super Saiyan Blue for fights that they don't even need to go Super Saiyan Blue, right? Dragon Ball Super has overused the Super Saiyan Blue transformation and lowered the value of this godly form. But even when Goku or Vegeta is in this godly blue form, they are struggling against opponents that should be weaker to them. Like when Krillin or Gohan fought Super Saiyan Blue Goku, they were keeping up with Goku. It made no sense, so that's why DBZ wins in this category. Let's quickly go over the hype category. DBZ wins here. Yes, Dragon Ball Super had very hype moments like Goku's Kamehameha against Kefla, the return of Vegito, Goku Black going Rose, UI Goku and MUI Goku, etc, etc. But I give it to Dragon Ball Z because it did moments better. What do I mean by that? For starters, transformations felt more impactful. Yes, they took much longer to transform in Z than Super, but that build-up was exciting and it made it feel more powerful and rewarding. Special attacks and new abilities like Vegeta's Final Flash, 20 times Kaioken Kamehameha, or the father-son Kamehameha felt more intense and stronger. Defeating the final villain of each saga felt more satisfying, especially since villains like Frieza and Cell tricked us into thinking they were initially dead. Also, comeback moments like Goku unlocking Super Saiyan for the first time or Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 felt really good to see. Art, animation, and music also plays a role in creating hype, but considering DBZ won in those categories, it just further proves the point that DBZ wins in this category as well. Finally, we got plot. DBZ and DBS have relatively simple plot. However, I gave the points to Dragon Ball Z because I think the plot in Z is more interesting and more entertaining to watch. Two of the major arcs of Dragon Ball Super were tournament arcs. Although tournament arcs are fun to watch in general, it's something that Z and Dragon Ball have already done in the past. Sure, it's a twist because it's not the world's martial arts tournament anymore, but it's still a tournament. Plus, the Universe 7 and Universe 6 tournament arc was ass. That shit was boring to watch. The Tournament of Power arc was alright. Its high moments were definitely high, but it didn't have a lot of high moments. A lot of power-ups or transformations feels more special and sometimes more deserving in Z than Super. Goku going Super Saiyan 1 for the first time when his best friend died before his eyes. Vegeta going Super Saiyan after working out extremely hard. Goku surprising us with the Super Saiyan 3 transformation he achieved while training for years in the afterlife. This feels better to watch than seeing bullshit like Caulifla going Super Saiyan in an instant because of a tingly back feeling, right? Another thing about plot, I feel like Dragon Ball Z's plot was more unpredictable than Dragon Ball Super. It was kind of easy to predict what would happen when watching Super, but Z having more of the unpredictability made it more suspenseful and kept us on our toes. And honestly, overall, I think Z did the plot better. Like traveling to Namek and everything that happened on that planet, Cell on a mission to absorb the androids to achieve his final form while the Z fighters try to stop him, Boo in a similar sense where he just gets stronger and stronger. But then you also have little things like Gohan going to school and meeting his future wife, or discovering the Namekian Dragon Balls and Purunga, Trunks showing up for the first time out of nowhere and just destroying Frieza and King Cold, going into the hyperbolic time chamber because you need to get stronger as quickly as possible, right? It's things like that just add layers onto the plot of Dragon Ball Z, making it more exciting, more entertaining, and more fun to watch than Dragon Ball Super. So that's the end of my debate. DBZ basically bodied Dragon Ball Super in every single category, and I stated my reasons as to why I think DBZ just does everything better, right? It's also fine if you disagree with whatever I have to say. If you do disagree, share your thoughts in the comment section below because I am interested in what you guys have to say. I plan on making more content like this in the future, so if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. Thanks for watching and peace.